is that so many people don't know how to be a mentor or don't know how to be a mentee. And, coming prepared, blessed to help many, but there's a big difference in those who participate in the help and those that go through the motion. I always say part of the problem with employees, mentees, is that they go the extra mile every once in a while, and you need to go the extra mile every day. And that's whether you're a mentor or a mentee. And I want to give, and we do this about, I think, every once a month or so. We've done it with Kevin Palmieri and those guys. I have an extraordinary client that I wanted to bring on, and we're going to do a little hot seat coaching for 30 minutes and then take Q&A. Everyone wanted to remind you, I have a mentee mentor guide. So if you want to be a coach, a mentor, reach out to me, email me. I'll give you the guide as well, how to be a mentee, how to be coached, to get the most out of whether it's hot seat coaching or whether it's long-term. I know one of my favorite coaches is David Corbin. He'll take someone for an entire weekend, and not my style, but great attributes to what we do in coaching. Everyone should have at least 3 coaches. My most important coach is my sleep coach. I've had her for years, Dr. Meeta Singh, helping me recover and access every single day. Sleep is so important. Most of you may or may not know this, but 26 years of the average life is spent sleeping. And most people don't pay any attention or give any intention to their sleep. But nonetheless, let's introduce this amazing mentee of mine, the extraordinary Alicia Covey. Welcome to the clubhouse.
Thank you, David. It's lovely to be here and good to see you.
Great. It's great to have you. All right, let's just show people how best to be mentored, and I'll give my best on how to mentor. But go ahead, we'll get started. What do you got for me today?
Awesome. So I think the first thing that has really helped me in being mentored with you is that you give so much amazing information so quickly. I record all of our calls, so that way I can give my 100% to what you're telling me and really let it impact me emotionally and mentally, and then go back to my notes. So I already started my recording for this one, but I wanted to mention that because it's been really helpful working with you. And then I also like to have my questions prepared ahead of time, and I usually shoot them over to you. That way you have a few minutes too, if you like to look them over. But
Awesome.
my first question today is, are you involved in the metaverse?
I am, and I study, and I think it's important to understand and have mentors in the metaverse. And so since the metaverse is an amplification and a duplication of real life, I'm looking to see what I know the most about in real life. So if it's beach properties and short-term rentals, then I want to seek people who understand that realm and where the differences lie according to my timing and risk tolerance in the metaverse. If it's exercise, is whatever non-negotiable it may be. And so I am participating in the metaverse, mostly in real estate right now, obviously coordinating the blockchain with the metaverse and real estate. And I crawl before I walk, before I run. I seek counsel from those who know much more about the metaverse than I know. And the biggest intricacy that I found so far is in $200 million high rise that's in the real verse, how to leverage that or amplify that into the metaverse. And I suggest the metaverse is not going to go anywhere except for grow, but you have to get down to the basics. For example, here's three basics that people don't think about. And I want everyone in the investment realm to think about the 3 levels. The first is investment or / contribution. We have to know our actual investment or contribution: time, money, emotion, or value. It's a coordinate of the timing and risk tolerance aspect of knowing your timing and risk tolerance before you get involved in any type of investment opportunity. And so in the context of that, you have to know your contribution or investment. And this is true of perceived and real value. And then secondly, you have to understand accumulation, where the growth and the aspects of accumulation are. So write down investment or contribution, write down accumulation. It's a different strategy. You need to have disciplines and strategies for all three of these in order to understand your timing and risk tolerance to move forward logically. Because in any investment, Alicia, if you get the alignment with the timing and risk tolerance that you wanted, it doesn't matter whether you make money or lose money. I'll give you an example. The lottery. If you understand the timing and risk tolerance of the lottery, that you have to wait until Saturday to see if your investment is going to pay off, and you understand that it has a 1 in a billion chance of paying off, when you don't win the lottery and it occurs on Saturday and you get your ROI on Saturday, which may be in the context, like we said, there's perceived and real value. The perceived value may be enjoyment or fun or entertainment. Well, you're super happy when you lose the lottery because it meets that timing and risk tolerance. That same application occurs when you consider the contribution or investment strategy, or the accumulation stage of how that would accumulate into financially benefit or emotionally benefit. Then finally, you have the contribution, accumulation, the distribution. So take the lottery analogy. You have to have a strategy of distribution. What if you win the 1 in a billion? What type of distribution are you going to take? Lump sum. And you have to predetermine this because it extracts the emotional aspect of the investment stage or contribution stage, accumulation stage, or the distribution stage. If you can extract the emotional aspect so that you don't just react to the stock market going down because of the Ukraine or crypto getting killed because of the Ukraine. If you went in with 3 strategies and alignment with your timing and risk tolerance, you'll be very happy right now, even though the market went down and went back up, crypto went, it doesn't matter. And I want everyone really to remember those 3 things and create strategies aligned with timing and risk tolerance: contribution, accumulation, and distribution.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. And I think you're so right because I watch the investments that I've made in crypto, for instance, and they're crazy. And something I saw the other day said, you haven't lost anything unless you've sold it. So just like chill out.
Right.
And my game is long game with crypto, so I don't even care. I'm like, hey, it can bounce around all at once. Right now, it's long game.
Yeah,
So I think
I
you're
tell
right.
my 11-year-old all of my crypto is his, so he can keep his eye on it, but he can't sell it till I give it to him. So I don't care where it goes.
Yeah, nice. Okay. So then my next question is, I think that you're very right. You have to be educated before you jump into these things. Where did you find the most relevant information to educate yourself on the metaverse? Where was your big library of wealth?
Well, one of the things that you'll find in the mentor and mentee guide is open-ended questions and how to ask them in person, on the phone, via email, and traditional and social media. So I'm constantly more interested than interesting. So I'm asking people all the time. I always like to say, ask 100 open-ended questions until you can find out how you can be of service or value, but also transition that into how others can inspire or help you or give you that information. So when I'm in conversations, if one of my primary interests are the metaverse, then I'm asking in person, on the phone, via email, traditional, social media. I'm asking specifically, hey, do you know anyone that can help me? I'm really interested in how fractionalized ownership in the metaverse would equate to a beachfront property, to a stadium or arena, to a short-term rental, or to a high-rise condominium / office space. Why? Because those are the areas that I know about in the real world, and I understand the stage theory, not just stage theory of my own content, but the stage theory of how the metaverse amplifies, modifies, and perpetuates what exists in the real world, and what financial aspects that I know are applicable, and where are the nuances, the change, the market, where's that different? Where's the market makers different? Where are the margins different in the metaverse? And what market does exist? And I think understanding all that and asking, do you know anyone that can help me? It's like being in the game Clue. Every time you get more and more, but the only way you get more clues is to ask open-ended questions, not pretend as if and have arrogant ignorance. Pretend like, well, you know what? I've had over $100 million in real estate. I know everything about real estate. Therefore, in the metaverse, since I've been doing short-term beach rentals for the last 20 years, I know exactly what to do in the metaverse. No, you don't. And I know you're a real estate person as well, and you can, equate the differences between California and Arkansas when it comes to properties. Well, it's exponential when you take California and Arkansas experience and apply it to the metaverse.
That seems logical from what you said, but
It
thank
seems
you.
logical, but so does knowing your timing and risk tolerance. So does asking for help. So does asking open-ended questions. Just because something's logical. So does thank you, by the way. It seems logical if you say thank you before you go to bed, and when you wake up, your life will change. But people don't have coherence. They don't remember to say thank you, and they don't do it. So I want to make sure that we're beating with a hammer in these sessions the logical, because I think one of the mistakes people make as a coach, Alicia, and I know you coach people as well. One of the mistakes is they don't state the obvious. They make these assumptions. I see it in, we were doing 2-minute drill, the launch party. I see it in so many pitches that people know their product so well. They love their product so much. They just assume everyone else gets what they get. And then when you state the obvious, then it becomes obvious. If you don't state the obvious, it remains obtuse.
And we all need reminders. Geez, one of my coaches told me that. He was like, that's my job, just to remind you, because I was feeling like you should only have to tell me once, but we are human. And so
Well,
now I
you
just
make
thank
a good
people.
point. I always tell people you could have an entire coaching business. You could be specifically a reminder coach or an accountability coach. And literally, with the right people, you could articulate a quantitative value to exceed what you ask for, especially with certain people. To be a reminder coach and an accountability coach, uh, that's it. And one of the aspects of coaching is to know that you're not the right coach for everyone. Not everybody needs a reminder coach. Not everybody needs an accountability coach. Not everybody needs a hot seat coaching coach or an all weekend coach. You pick out specific to your skills, knowledge, and desires what's aligned with what you need, not what other people need, what's missing, or what you don't want when you're coaching, and stick to your frequency of what you do.
I love it. Thank you. Let's see. My next question, what would you recommend to someone who wants to get into the metaverse, like first baby steps, besides starting to ask a lot of questions?
Yeah, I think the first baby step is to make an investment in the metaverse.
Okay.
I'll use Celsius Bank as an example. I am a large depositor of stable coin into Celsius Bank and Ethereum. But Alex Machinsky, who's actually a friend of mine, the CEO, he took, he's had 3 unicorns. His bank is the fastest bank ever to 30 billion. He's created voice over IP. He took on the carriers when they said you can't do internet phone calls, and he beat them. Now he's taken on the banks and given, up to 10% interest on your stable coin. It's ridiculous. So I got super excited and I said, hey, Alex, I'm going to move some big money over and I'd like to make 10% interest, completely secure, like a bank account. And he told me, he said, Dave, put in $100 and learn how it works, because they'll take a minimum of $100 deposit. Put in $100 into the metaverse and see how it works. There's a lot of subtleties to success. There's a lot of dummy tax that is a lot cheaper when you have $100 than 100 million. And so keep the dummy tax quotient down by asking for help, finding mentorship, but just getting your toe wet and crawling before you walk, before you run.
I love it. Thank you. I think I had some of the similar questions about NFTs. My first one is, do you own any?
I do, and just went through with a Bapes project, a pretty good Turn Coin's another one. I also, thanks to Mr. Lundy, got involved with the Matrix and NFT, and we're both holders of those NFTs. The way that I see NFTs is by its capability, though. See, some NFTs I consider like baseball cards. You know, there's tons of baseball cards out there. Some are worth a fortune, most are worth nothing. The difference between the collectible NFT and a baseball card is there's a limited quantity produced. So you have an aspect of how to ascertain the value, because there's a limited amount of Mickey Mantles that have been produced by Topps. And so it's a different class of an asset, this type of collectible. In the NFT realm, anyone, I use Creatify, can create an NFT, create a collectible. That's not where I like to invest my money in the collectibles, although I'm involved in them with Drew Brees and Patrick Mahomes and others with Turncoin and, really fun stuff. But I've been involved in those types of collectibles, from helmets to footballs to baseball cards, boxing gloves, all of those things for years. But what really interests me are the capabilities of NFTs, democratization of the workflow, two, fractionalized ownership, chain of ownership, and authentication of the chain of ownership, which is eliminating all the brokerage fees, all the different interferences that we have in this democratization product. So, for example, you work in real estate. Imagine getting of all of those different fees that exist in a real estate transaction, and moreover, creating your own market for owning 1/10,000th of a shopping center or of a stadium or something like that, and be able to freely trade it, but also have it be guaranteed authentic in its ownership and transferable, but also have the historical analysis of that workflow of the chain of ownership in order to effectuate the value, to see every transaction of how much was it originally, where did it go up, where did it go down, et cetera. So looking at the picks and shovels in NFTs, looking at the capabilities of an NFT, especially the authentication, the democratization, and the fractionalized ownership, you can take advantage of NFTs in a way that most people today are not even considering. And you can really create a better market makers, because you're the market maker in an NFT, and better margins because there's no fees.
Nice. Wow. Thank you. I love that answer. Okay, I'm going to move on to my next set of questions, which involve social media. My first question is, where do you get your inspiration for your content from? I'm sure there's multiple areas, but I'm curious, where does this come from?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I have a Shakespearean type of philosophy, as many know, when it comes to the inspiration of my content, which there's a lot of it because of it. And so, number one, to thine own self be true. So a key element, even when I'm speaking or coaching or in business, I always tell people, write down what resonates with you, because there's 5 levels of intention in content. It's not just what I do in the content. It's not just what I say. It's not just my thoughts. It's not just my beliefs, but it's how we feel, that resonance. So when you feel something, if something resonates with you, write it down and tie the story to that lesson that resonates with you. Well, I do the same thing in my content. I take my daily activity, the Shakespearean revival of to thine own self be true. Well, when something resonates with you at the highest level of vibration or intention, which is feeling, then I know that I should, number one, once again, Shakespearean, treat the world as my stage. I want to capture what resonates with me. So in all aspects of my life, it could be, sitting at a baseball game, watching my son who's 11, or going to, watch my daughter cheerleader, going to dad's day at a college, or visiting my daughter who lives in New York working, or just sitting in bed with my wife talking. Something resonates with me. I want to capture it in some form, because the whole world is my stage. So sometimes capturing it means videoing it. Sometimes it means audio recording. Sometimes it means writing down a note by a pad that's right by the computer while I'm doing this training. Or sometimes it, may mean texting an arbitrary person just so I've captured the idea, that purpose is the pursuit of yourself, right? Purpose is the suit of convincing yourself of the illusions you've created. These are things I've texted arbitrarily, not necessarily to anyone in particular, just to capture on my phone and have it conveniently go to the first person that comes up, so I don't have to search for Alicia to send her a specific message. So to thine own self be true, what resonates with you, number one, capture it in a variety of different mediums. Then once it's captured, then you can modify it to the particular situation, a speech, an interview, a training, whatever it would be. Then you amplify it in the variety of different platforms that allow you to amplify it. And that means project it, strengthening the signal, learning about the spectrum of people, of what they're listening for, not listening to, There's three aspects of what people don't even realize. It's, you want to know what your spectrum knows already, what they don't know, and what they need to know. These are the three aspects of resonance of an audience, of instead of like most people being more interesting instead of being more interested. I'm interested in what you know already, Alicia, what you don't know, and what you need to know. And this is true in our coaching. And so understanding the amplification need to know is key. Then lastly, which most people aren't even to this realm, which, I was with Ed Milet last week filming our show here in Vegas. And he said to me, Dave, I get what you're doing. I can't wait to see you in 20 years. And I said, why is that? He said, because you have a repository of content that keeps growing at an exponential rate. And I don't think people understand the value of that repository, of that perpetuation of content. And so I have, in all aspects of my life, as far as my content goes, a capture strategy. You heard some of it that I utilize in all aspects of my life by what resonates with me. I have a modification strategy, which is mostly outsourced employment of people that will modify, because that's an outsourced capability, meaning you don't have to know me or my content or be an employee of mine in order to modify to the different platforms. Then the amplification strategy of knowing what people know, what they don't know, and what they need to know. And then finally, a perpetuation strategy that really takes into consider compound interest and aggregated growth, acceleration, exponential value of the binge watching society that is only going to increase itself and accelerate itself exponentially as well. This Shakespearean revival is the key to my content strategy, which is 7 days a week and is part of my enjoyment of the consistent everyday, persistent without quit pursuit of my potential.
Wow. It was so much. I'm like, okay, I have the recording. I don't have to like dive in here.
And everybody gets the recording on Mondays. We have over 63,000 people register on the webinar, and the majority of them just watch the replay because they actually tell me, Dave, you talk too fast and there's too many things involved that it doesn't do me any good to listen to you live.
Well, I love it because I think it plants the seeds. And then when you go back, you hear additional, like the watering comes then. So that is phenomenal. Thank you. Okay. So you kind of answered that. My next question would be, how do you decide what content gets posted and when? So you're consistently, documenting this content in the ways that you just described. How do you decide when and where?
Write this down, everyone. I'm going to talk this one slow because very few people get this. And it's because they don't understand exponential growth, aggregation, and compound interest. You have to have a test and go strategy based off of radical humility. Like, I'm a math person, so I tell people all the time, if you understood the trillions of variables that are involved in posting content, I said trillions because I'm a mathematician, and anyone out there that's taking statistics would realize with 6.4 billion people and the variables involved in any piece of content, from color time, content itself, and all the different, there's trillions of variables. So when all these great digital marketing companies try to come to you with a $20,000 a month proposal for 12 pieces of content a month, please, I have test accounts, I have test strategies and philosophies, but I live within the context of ignorant humility that I do not know what I do not know. There's trillions of variables. So when there's that many variables, the only way that you can succeed is to test and see. I will tell you, the majority of the content that I do that I love, that I'm like, oh my God, Alicia, you got to see this thing. It's going to kill it. It gets like 1,000 views, right? And then when I do something and my guys are like, hey, this is going to kill it, right? And I'm talking about outsource editors or young people or my wife or whoever. They're like, oh, I love this. I'm like, that sucks. I don't even want to, I'll go ahead, test it. Boom, 400,000 views. I'm like, what? But it's like we said earlier, right? We just assume, and I'm so deep in my own, excuse my language, everyone, I'm so deep in my own shit that I can't smell what's really good. And so, I have to stick to the ignorant humility. everyone out there, if you're not testing and going when it comes to content, if you're relying on experts of digital marketing that don't execute on a test and go strategy, I believe, my personal opinion, that statistically, it's impossible for them to live up or manage or align with the expectation they set to you, that somehow they know the analytics and this BS. Even if there wasn't a change in the system every day, which just adds to the trillions of variables, even if they were set, these people don't know what they don't know. You want to find the people that are fast learners and are the best testers.
Nice. Wow. That was wonderful. Thank you. Let's see. My next question is, this one just kind of wraps up our social media. What is the number one thing that you recommend anyone do on social media when you're starting out, just trying to grow your content? And I know you've given amazing tips. So what's that number one thing?
This is easy, and it's the thing. 5 years ago, Super Bowl. So I just had my anniversary with a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, and I helped Gary with his sports agency because that's what I knew about. And AJ, his brother, started a great sports agency called Vayner Sports. But from day one, I had a trade-off. 5 minutes a week I spent with Gary helping him, and he spent 5 minutes a week mentoring me on this point. For over a year, I would give him my Instagram and say, Gary, what should I do? And he'd look at me and say, post more. And I'd be like, dude, people are going to get sick of me. And so you got to post more. I don't care when your friends, families, and associates are telling you, stop posting, I'm tired of you, this is ridiculous how much you're posting, post more. That's the minimum you should be posting. I'm not joking. You don't understand the size, scope, and scale of that audience and how repetition and consistency is at the forefront of value when it comes to content. Post more. I said it slowly. You don't have to watch the replay. You can write it down. I don't care who you are. I'm consistently trying to figure out how I can post more. And Gary is consistently trying to, and I have hundreds of people working on this stuff. He has thousands. How can I post more? So if you haven't heard me, post more. I got time for one more question, and then we'll take questions from other people as well.
I'd love to ask a question, David.
Okay, so
Give me
last
one
question.
second. I got one more question from Alicia. You'll be up. Thank you.
Thanks.
So last question is, when you're traveling, do you adjust your morning routine? I know that that's very important for you to, get your day going well. Do you adjust it? And if you have a condensed version, what is it?
Beautiful. So first of all, my morning routine starts tonight. So my tomorrow starts today. I know Amelia laughed at that when I said it the first time, that I have an unwinding routine based off of recovery so I can plateau as an embodiment, but also access so I can learn more while I sleep than I do when I'm awake. So number one, I shifted that paradigm, and I have an adaptable routine that I utilize my non-negotiables in order to effectuate the prioritization of time. And then within the context of time, I have routines and practices to be more productive, to provide more value, to be more accessible to others and access or receive, and to be more gracious. In other words, to be coherent in the ability to not only find the light, the love, and the lessons in everything I do, which adds value and makes me more accessible, but to distinguish how much time that I should spend finding the light, the love, and the lessons in certain people, certain opportunities, certain options, because 80% of most people's time is spent on things that bleed us. And if you spend 80% of your time trying to find the light, the love, and the lessons in something that's bleeding you, and you could be spending it on something that's feeding you, holy moly, think about mathematically the exponential difference. So I always say, have a set routine, but have an adaptable routine. Number one, because if you want to make God laugh at you, come up with a well-developed plan or routine, and he'll go ahead. So if you have a adaptable routine based off of your non-negotiables that have a time consideration of finding the light, the love, and the lessons. So for me, I take into consideration with my 5 daily practices, which I send to everyone and which I know you utilize, right? I literally am able to effectuate with my time minimum of an hour a day on my health. Why? Because I want to live to over 111. Minimum of 30 minutes a day with my wife, 30 with my 11-year-old, 2 minutes with the 2022 and the 18-year-old, and 1 minute with my mom, and then a minimum of 10 minutes a day with random other people that are relative to me. Number two, why? Because my family is the most important thing to me. And because my family is the most important thing to me, then I need to take care of my health, because if I don't take care of myself, I can't take care of my family. Then finally, I'm a student of time, a student of my calendar. Third, as a non-negotiable. So when in-laws come to town, or my buddies in my fraternity from college mess up my schedule and I can't unwind at 9 p.m. because I'm in Vegas, and next thing I know it's 4 a.m., I go right to that non-negotiable, right? I make sure that regardless of, where I'm on or off of my natural routine, I have a minimum of an hour a day on my health, minimum of time with my family, minimum of time studying time, so I can be productive, accessible, and gracious, efficient, effective, and statistically successful every single day. Uh, Thank you, Alicia, to illustrate, the bigger picture of why I'm here. And please reach out to me if you want that mentee mentor guide, is how we're successful. There's a big difference between how Alicia shows up as a mentee and other people show up. If you're not more interested than interesting, if you're not willing to do the work, you're not going to get what we get out of this and we do it normally in 20 minutes. We gave an extra 10 minutes here, but I gave so much to unpack that if we did any more, you couldn't get to the next call and execute on what we've learned. And I'm available to you, coordinated, in which Alicia does as well. She communicates with me during the week so that we can work on these things together. And that's how we get the exponentiality out of it. This is how you mentor. This is how you mentee in hot seat coaching. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable and allowing me to do this. You're an amazing coach yourself, real estate guru, and most importantly, you're the modern day Sex in the City. You got a modern day Sex in the City podcast coming out, as well as a cookbook with some extraordinary women as well, talking about women to women relationships, which we're going to bring you on as your own guest to Clubhouse so you can talk about women, something I don't know, women communicating with women and the critical issues there. So please, you'll be a guest of mine on one of these shows. I know everybody's very interested in what you do. Where can people find you, Alicia?
Very easily on Instagram, Alicia Covey. Same for LinkedIn and TikTok. So
you're amazing. All right, let's share our wisdom with others. Thank you for joining me. Jakey Bakey, reset the room, and let's take our first question. I'll take it online, but you tell me who's coming on. Thank you, Alicia, for joining.
Bye.
Awesome. Go ahead, Jake, set the room.
Yes, let's do it. Let's flash our mics. David and Alicia, that was an incredible hot seat coaching. Everyone, take a quick second. Let's follow Alicia. That was amazing. Thank you, everybody. That was hot seat coaching. We still have 25 minutes or so. So if you'd like to ask a question here on Clubhouse, please feel free to back channel me and we will bring up as many people as possible. Dave, the first person, when you're ready, will be Frank via here on Clubhouse. So if you want to take a question on the Zoom training, and then feel free to come back. Thank you.
I love it. So first question is, how important are guarantees in business? Guarantees only mean anything with what they're backed by. And so I don't like to talk about guarantees. I like to talk about articulating quantitative value to exceed what we're asking for in mitigation of risk. And so, a guarantee of, hey, I work month to month, I don't lock you into anything, and I can articulate the quantitative value, and if I don't exceed it, then you're not locked in. I've mitigated all risk for you. That is a type of guarantee. But the problem with saying guarantees are important is that a lot of people give unenforceable guarantees or intentionally give guarantees that have back-end sales points to them. They've oversold, miscommunicated, manipulated, even lied and cheat on that guarantee. And how many times have we gone back with some sort of guarantee and the person said, oh, sorry, that expired 180 days ago. Well, you didn't tell me that when you told me that I could return this at any time. You didn't tell me that. So a guarantee is only as good as that which can be executed on and enforced. It also is a requirement of trusting people, but vetting them. If anyone does state a guarantee, I would have a list of open-ended questions utilizing and vetting what that guarantee actually means, and maybe even ask for a referral if it's something of substantial value of someone else that can articulate their experience with that type of guarantee. All right, Jake, let's take Frank.
Frank, welcome to the clubhouse. If you could please unmute yourself and feel free to ask away.
Good morning, gentlemen. Jake, thank you. David, thank you as always. Good morning, everybody on Breakfast with Champions. Those who don't know me, my name is Frank B. I'm out here in Tucson, Arizona. Recovering heroin addict, 17 years active addiction. On New Year's, I celebrated 5 years of recovery, and part of that, I owe it to nutrition. I love how you mentioned about you spend at least 1 hour a day on your health. And I'm also diagnosed with PTSD and bipolar, a lifetime of trauma. And one thing that I've been learning is how vital nutrition plays in our recovery. And there's just a lot of information out there that doesn't get out to the people who are coming off the streets, you know what I mean? And through just blessings, I had lymphedema. My lymphatic system was just super swollen. I was just super sick. And
Oh, Jake, can we drop the?
Yeah.
so like my physiology was.
Hey, Frank, do you got a question for me? Because you're breaking up. Do you have a question?
Yes. So how do I attract
Frank, are you there?
All right, let me.
people that can help me with
Yeah, you broke up here. Jake, let me do this. Let me just extract something from this that can help people. Look, we talk about nutrition and the experience that Frank has had to recover through utilization of nutrition, which brings up a really great lesson. And, at its core, when we crawl before we walk, before we run, at its core, when we're trying to make significant changes in our lives, there's 4 things that we need to live. And if all you did every day was address these 4 things, you would have exponentiality of growth and acceleration of, extraordinary, change in your life. And number 1 is nutrition. We need to eat to live. Unless you've read, an autobiography of Yogi and, through some sort of Kriya yoga, there's a few people on earth that supposedly historically never needed to eat. The majority of the people on earth, to a very high percentage, need nutrition to live. And that nutrition should be medicinal, not of dis-ease. So many people don't focus in on nutrition and they put themselves at dis-ease instead of what should be at ease. And so, like I said, if you only focused in on every day these 4 things, you would see an extraordinary life that you're leading. And the first is nutrition. The second is hydration. You're over 80% water. This is how we channel. This is how we connect to the omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing source. This is the source of energy coming through us for others. So you need to make sure that you're focused in on the second thing that you need to live, which is hydration. The third thing is breath. If you don't breathe, you will not sustain a life. Therefore, we need to just practice breathing, whether you call it meditation or yoga or some sort of channeling. You need to learn to breathe. And I actually have a breathing coach because of the set essentials. I have a nutrition coach, which includes hydration, but that is separate. And then I have this coach for breathing to teach me how to access so many different things through breath, through the practice of being quiet, enabling me to stay inspired in spirit, to identify that which interferes with me and my higher self. And then finally, the 4th thing that we should focus in on, and hopefully this addresses somewhat of what Frank was saying. I know he wanted to talk about attraction too, but focusing in on nutrition, hydration, of course, breathing, and then sleep. I had mentioned earlier, the number 1 and oldest mentorship relationship I have is a sleep coach. You need to sleep to live. And these are the four necessities. If you're wondering, where do I start? Whether you're a heroin addict or a multi-billionaire, you need to start with focusing in on, paying attention to, and utilizing the 5 levels of intention: doing, saying, thinking, believing, and feeling. What you eat, what you drink, what you breathe, and how you sleep. If you do these 4 things every day, it'll be extraordinary, the exponential value and expansion that you'll receive, and the enlightenment and vibration and frequency and awareness that you will grow to and through, how inspired you'll live, not only for you, but through you for others. All right, Jake, I'm going to take another question online. Who's going to be up next on Clubhouse?
Next up will be Tom when he comes back.
Awesome. So let me see here. What are the top 3 books you'd recommend everyone should read? My favorite, I'm a spiritual business person, Great Reconciliation, A Ferocious Buddha. Think and Grow Rich is an earth shaker. Napoleon Hill, if you haven't read Think and Grow Rich. 2, I think you should read Power of Intention by Dr. Wayne Dyer, one of my favorites as well. And then many options for the 3rd book, determinative upon what you want, what your priorities are according to your midterm and long-term objectives, which you hypocritically can change every single day by utilizing the daily practices. For me, Go Giver or Surrender Experience, the Atomic Habits by James Clear. But I would say the 2 staples, that I read every day: Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, and Power of Intention. The 3rd book that I utilize every day is A Course in Miracles, but that's definitely not for everyone. But give it a try. Get your foot wet. Course in Miracles is a daily practice that I have that is probably the best mindset, heart set, and handset book ever written. But it's hyper complex. If you think Shakespeare is hard to understand, try the Course in Miracles. Anyway, Jake, who's up next?
Tom, welcome to the Clubhouse. If you can please unmute yourself and then feel free to ask your question. Welcome.
Awesome. Thanks, Jake. And thanks, David. All right. So I'm Tom, my beautiful bride here in San Diego. And the question I have for you, you brought up something really has been my hyper focus for the last year and a half or so, because we get out a ton of content every single day. And even with a small team of people, it feels never ending. Right? It's like you can only do so much, even with a small team. And so what is your, and I know it's a deep subject, you talk about Gary Vee, and I know how he gets out his content. I've read through his whole thing, but how do you do it with a small team, and how do you really distribute masses of content, like getting it on Pinterest, getting your podcast up, getting it on YouTube, doing the YouTube short, getting it on LinkedIn, across the board? What's your plan to really scale that? Can you go a little deeper on that?
Absolutely. So first of all, I want to talk about the bigger issue, which is being overwhelmed. If you want to be overwhelmed, start onto this road of capture, modify, amplify, and perpetuate, because there's always more, and there's always more to do. There's always more places and more content, especially if you have the post more, quote unquote, attitude that Gary and I have. So everyone out there, no matter what it is, content, family, health, whatever your issue is, if you're feeling overwhelmed, you're blessed. This is the entryway to abundance. See, what it means is you have more than enough to do, more than enough opportunities, more than enough options, more than enough people, more than enough parties. All of these different things are more than enough issues. That means that you're entering the gateway of more than enough of everything for everyone. Those people that feel overwhelmed need to practice prioritization being the antidote to feeling overwhelmed. And so what I want you to do is to take yourself out of this attachment that you have emotionally to some outcome that somehow you're going to have enough content in enough places. You won't, because you live in a world of more than enough. And so what we want to do is prioritize systematically with those lenses of productivity, accessibility, and gratitude. And by utilization of systems and templates, we can get better and better at growing the capacity of the amount of content and the amount of places that we can post the content, and even the test and go strategy of posting better content, getting better qualified content out there. And so what I want you to do is to take this kind of test and go attitude, this blessed attitude of feeling overwhelmed because you're blessed to live in the world of more than enough. And I want you to look at what you're posting and how you're posting and where you're posting to create systems, templates that will allow you to be more efficient, more effective, and more statistically successful with what you post. No matter how much you post, you can still post more. No matter how many places you post, you can still post in more places. This is something that you have to create comfort in by feeling that you have a system of prioritization to the systems, the efficiency, effectiveness, and statistical success, and the templates. You know, we template everything that we start posting when we learn from it. So as we started the, TikTok realm here, we have templates and we're learning and changing those templates, what colors to use, where the captions place, how long they should be, and creating a matrix so that when we take a piece of content, that it is parsed and parceled into multiple ways by not only capturing it a certain way, but modifying it in multiple ways, amplifying it exponentially to the multiplicity of ways that we have modified it, and then siphoning off the perpetual content, the ones that can be repositive, like on YouTube and other platforms that host a repository itself. I actually created my own search engine so that all of my content has its own repository. So, if you go to search.dmeltzer.com, you actually can type in post more and you can find a ton of videos on post more. Now, all of those aren't templated to an audience, but you're going to find all the videos on that critical business issue, and you can look at those and learn from those as well. So what you want to do is to see things as blessed that you are overwhelmed and create systems, processes of efficiency, effectiveness, and statistical success, and template those as you test and go and grow. Does that sound fair?
That's awesome. No, I appreciate it. It's so funny. I was just looking at your TikTok and I see you live over there repurposing your content as we're speaking. So smart. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I have the Sanford and Son set up. We're on IG Live, TikTok Live, LinkedIn Live, webinar with, just an enormous amount of people. Then we have the replay that's captured. It forms a podcast for me on every Monday, which is one of the top podcast downloads that I have, which is the replays of these trainings and variety of issues. So there is, a great capacity of systems for the efficiency, effectiveness, and statistical success. All right, Jake, I'm going to take another question online. Who's up next on Clubhouse?
Speaking of TikTok, we got a TikTok question for you, and then after that, Dave, we got Blaine to ask a question.
Okay, do you want to ask me the TikTok question then? Go ahead.
Of course. Okay, the question on TikTok is from Brooke. She said, first, see you at your launch party for 2-minute drill. And she said, I own a small startup in Minnesota. What makes for a good pitch when pitching investors?
Look, number one thing in pitching investors, beyond what we talked about earlier, when I talked about when you're talking to an investor, you want to know, what they don't know, and what they need to know. And if you know that, you will have credibility. Credibility is the most important part of a pitch. You need to go through with a fine-tooth comb what you're doing in a credible status, because if you somehow are seen to be discredited by unintentionally or even intentionally, but unintentionally most of the time, overselling, back-end selling, line manipulating, or cheating the facts of the pitch, then the attention and intention will go, what else is he or she intentionally overselling, back-end selling, line manipulating, and cheating me for, and you will ruin the pitch. Credibility, if you're 100% credible, you're done. Nobody can get there, but the closer you get to credibility and the more you rehearse and practice the credibility component of your pitch, the better you'll do statistically. 2, emotional attachment. Make sure that you can articulate the emotional attachment, meaning that people buy on emotion for logical reasons. 3, you have to practice articulating the quantitative value, the reasons why somebody should invest or go along with or share your vision. It's not good enough that you love your product, you're immersed in your product, you live your product, service, or solution. You need to practice actually articulating the value to exceed what you're going to ask for. 4, which is more important today than ever, impact. it's almost a requirement that you have to illustrate the impact that your product, service, or solution of your pitch is going to have. Make sure that you include the impact component of what you're doing. And then finally, instead of leading with the features and benefits and your capabilities, instead of overselling, back-end selling, lying, manipulating, and cheating, what you need to do is know the capabilities and how they apply to what they know, don't know, and what they need to know. Utilizing the features and benefits, not to oversell or back-end sell, but to utilize it as an arsenal of value to enhance the articulation of the quantitative value that you're going to provide so that it's easy to exceed what you're asking for. If you have credibility, emotional attachment, a quantifiable articulation of value through the reasons they should share a vision with you, showing and illustrating the impact, and only using features and benefits as an arsenal to add to the credibility, emotional attachment, quantifiable value, and impact, you will hit a home run, whether it be on my show, Dragon's Den, Shark Tank, variety of other places. Our pitch show, we only care about the pitch because for me, that's the only reality that we can help with you on TV with. Plus, it enables us to give you $50,000 of cash and prizes every episode for doing a great pitch that hopefully will boost your statistical success. All right, Jake, we'll take our next guest on Clubhouse.
Okay, Danny, welcome to the Clubhouse. If you could please unmute yourself and feel free to ask your question.
Thank you, Jay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, David. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for allowing me to plant seeds of gratitude with you by taking my call the other day, and I'm very grateful. My question is in regards to priorities and the abundance that you were just talking about. So I have a lot of plates spinning of projects that are on the go, and I've just realized at this point that if I really calculate what can really be achieved at this point in my life, I would have to live as long as they used to in the Bible, right? And so I'm like, okay, I have to reprioritize. So when I think about being kind to my future self, I look at all of those plates and think, how do I stop them all spinning, or how do I, reprioritize by taking some of those plates down without the whole thing coming crashing down? And I guess it's a question of abundance, because all of those plates that are spinning lead to my why. And so how would one reprioritize now, knowing that life has an end and there is a limitation on what can be achieved? Thank you.
I love it. Well, the only thing that should die in your lifetime is your limitations. So including your embodiment, which will be the ultimate limitation that leaves you. And so, utilizing the 5 daily practice, whenever prioritization becomes a clue or a component of what you're seeking, it's the 5 daily practices that allow you to prioritize. What does that mean? When we have the multiplicity of abundance, when we have more than enough of everything for everyone, when we have the mindset the majority of the day, only spending minutes and moments in scarcity, in interference between you and what you already are, happy, healthy, wealthy, and worthy, we need to shift that paradigm to figure out what we're doing to interfere with it, why all the plates can't continue to spin, grow, accelerate in their manner. You have to first ask yourself, what do I want today? Taking into consideration the midterm and long-term objectives, what do I want today personally, experientially, giving and receiving wise? It's that simple. Once you know your what, then you can go to the easiest way to get what you want, is to figure out what I want. How does that inspire somebody else or help somebody else? Elevating others to elevate yourself. And 2, who with what I want can help me, inspire me, help me. So once we know the what, then you need the who. Then we go through that illustration of time and the reconciliation of time to the how. How am I going to get this done? Well, I just need to assess how it's aligned with my what and my who, determining what's bleeding me or feeding me, utilizing the lenses of productivity, accessibility, and gratitude, being efficient, effective, and statistically successful with the 24 hours of activity I'm given every day. The only constant that we have that's a man-made construct, but yet still determines the day. And so when we utilize these to know what we want, who we can help, and who can help us, how best to get it done to feed that which feeds us, instead of allowing majority of our time to be spent bleeding us or interfering with what we already are. We then can prioritize those spinning plates. We then can determine what's most important to us, using urgency as a subset, as a factor, as a criteria, but the ultimate evaluation of prioritization, the antidote to procrastination, antidote to feeling overwhelmed, is to prioritize what's important to us, not what's important to other people, not what's important to what's missing or what you don't want. There is no FOMO or FOPO. There should be no fear of missing out or no fear of other people's opinion. We should not care what other people think. We should only learn from it. I'm going to repeat that. We should not care what other people think, but we should only learn from it. Allowing us to prioritize what's important to us by the what, the who, and the how to determine our now. And there is only ease in now, not dis-ease. And if you know your what, your who, your how, and your now, you then, instead of searching for your why like you think you should, you can apply your why. Applying your why by clearing the interference between you and what you already are: happy, healthy, wealthy, and worthy. Applying your why, living in inspiration, using motivation to accelerate you to the process of inspiration, getting you up, getting you back up, getting you started, getting you back started. Applying your why by identifying what it is that's interfering with your why. The greatest source, the power, the omniscient, the all-knowing, that loves you more than you love your children or your mom loves you. What are you doing? Identify the ego-based consciousnesses that get misinterpreted from motivation to inspiration. The need to be right, the need to be competitive, comparison, the need to be separate, the need to be inferior, superior, anxious, frustrated, angry, guilty, resentful, worried. Do you know how much time, emotion, value, and money is wasted in that interference and that bleeding? Because we are too focused in on finding our why. We're trying to get happy, trying to get healthy, trying to get wealthy and worthy. Once you identify what it is that's interfering, then instead of fighting it, overcoming it, going around and over and through it, just stop, breathe, use that necessity of life, and then roll in the right trajectory of the prioritization of what, who, how to determine your now. I promise all of you, if you utilize every day these daily practices, you will make more money, help more people, and have more fun. You will be happy. You will enjoy the consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential. I want to once again thank Alicia Covey for joining me and teaching that hot seat coaching, how to be a mentor or a mentee. Email me for the guide on how to do that. If you want the perfect pitch guide, you want to join us at the launch party next Thursday, come as our VIP guest. The open-ended question guide, just reach out to us, david@dmeltzer.com. Jake, why don't you close out the room? It's 8 a.m. Pacific time.